Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. Cachefly.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premiere Radio Networks, including XM Channel 166 and about 170 of the best stations in the U.S. on Saturday, February 18th, 2012. This is episode 849. Enjoy. The Tech Guy is brought to you by Stamps.com. So convenient. You could buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and printer 24/7. You never have to go to the post office again, and you've got to try my no-risk trial. It's $110 bonus offer, including $55 free postage. Go to Stamps.com, click the radio microphone, use the Tech Guy offer code. Stamps.com. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy, and it's time to talk about computers and the internet. Cell phones, big, medium, small, iPads and other tablets. We should say iPads and also RANs, home theater and all that jazz. Phone number is 8888 Ask Leo. If you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, if you want to talk about technology, this is what we do for the next few hours. 888-827-5536. I have a webpage. Well, it's not pretty, but it's there, and it has all the notes from the things I talk about, so you don't have to write down those links. That webpage is techguylabs.com. techguylabs.com. And when you go there, you'll see a link to a lot of other stuff. There's an FAQ and a glossary, but the two I want you to pay attention to are the chat link, because you can join the 666 people in there. Woo-oo. We better get some more people in there, and you can talk back to the show through the through the chat room, which is kind of fun. You can be the wise kids in the back of the class. We also have on that link a link to the video, so you can. Nothing more fascinating than watching a guy talk on the radio. Boy, it's like a great Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie where nothing happens. techguylabs.com. I have to ask your opinion on something, and I'm going to ask you not to have the same knee-jerk reaction that the Wall Street Journal had. Wall Street Journal, it's so funny because the Wall Street Journal has been for months now running articles on how the internet invades your privacy. And yet, if you read the Wall Street Journal online, all the things that they rail about, they do. Right? They spy on you. They set cookies. They do all the things because, well, the internet only works one of two ways. You either pay for the site, and in fact, with the Wall Street Journal, you do pay for the site, or the site supports itself. It's free like Facebook, and it supports itself with advertising. There really isn't any sensible ground in between the two. You can't have a free website that doesn't try to make any money. In the long run, that's just not going to fly because it costs money to make a web page. It costs more money than you might think. So there are two stories this week about monetization. That's the word the folks in the Silicon Valley and elsewhere use to describe how you make some money off of these poor souls who are using your site. Monetization. The Wall Street Journal does it both ways. They charge you to read on the Wall Street Journal site, and they're tracking what you're looking at. They're selling your information to advertisers. They're popping up ads. They're doing all the things that they conveniently, bitterly complain about in their pages. So they blew the lid off of something that's going on the iPhone and the iPad too, that Google and others are doing. And they've gotten a lot of press, kind of a lot of, I think, knee-jerk press about it. And this is where I need your help. This thing happened yesterday. They say that Apple, in order to protect your privacy, now that's something I want to put in quotes because in a minute I'm going to ask you if that's really what Apple's up to. But in order to protect your privacy, Apple's browser, the Safari browser on the iPhone and the iPad, do something no other browser does. It might get a little complicated. They turn off third-party cookies by default. What does that mean? Well, a cookie is a way that a website kind of stores information on your computer, not theirs, but on your computer about what you've been doing. They store information about, who you are, not your name, address, and serial number, but they give you a unique cookie so that when you come back, they can say, "Oh, hi, 73494412221333141. Your password to log in is this." When you save your password on a website, that's what it's doing. It's doing that in a cookie. Your last page you visited is this. You like blue jeans, not green jeans, that kind of thing. That's what cookies are generally used for. Those are first-party cookies. Now, this is the privacy issue, is something called third-party cookies, where you go to a site, let's say Google, or even better, let's say Wall Street Journal. And on the Wall Street Journal, they have ads embedded on the site, right? Those ads come from an internet advertising agency. And the internet advertising agency can also set cookies saying, "You've seen this ad, you've visited this page." Those are third-party cookies. They're persistent information about your visit that are stored not by the page you're visiting, wallstreetjournal.com, but by some third party. And some privacy advocates say, well, that's not a good thing because third-party cookies can be used to track you, which is kind of true. Not by name, but I'll give you an example. If you go to the Wall Street Journal and there's a DoubleClick ad. DoubleClick is an advertising company owned by Google, actually. And there's a DoubleClick ad, and it notes that you're there. And then you go to the San Francisco Chronicle and the New York Times and 3 other USA Today, and all of them have DoubleClick ads, which they all do. Each time, DoubleClick knows you've been to all 4 of those sites. So they can aggregate information about your visits across the web, not just to any individual site, but they know you've visited all 5 of those newspapers. I don't think that's a huge privacy violation, but some people don't like that idea. So most browsers give you an option to disable third-party cookies. Okay, so far so good, right? Safari is the only browser that has it turned off by default. In every other browser it's on, but you can go in there and change it. And on the iPhone and on the iPad, you can change that, but by default, its third-party cookies are disabled. Apple says, we are on the side of the angels. We are protecting your privacy. Well, Google got caught going around that setting this week. Wall Street Journal caught them. Actually, Wall Street Journal published the information from a lesser-known blog, a hacker who noticed that Google was putting something called an iframe, a blank, an empty ad on there, and using a kind of a well-known way to get around this setting. In fact, there are 4 other ad companies doing the same. Google says, well, we did it because we want members of the Google Plus brigade, people who are on our social network, to be able to +1 pages. And you can't put a +1 button. That's a third-party little bug, right? So I go to the Wall Street Journal. They have a +1 this article. You have the Facebook like. That's a third-party bug as well, because Facebook not only puts that there, but it has to know you're logged into Facebook for you to use it, right? Same thing with Google +1 and other companies. So in order for that +1 to work, Google says, we have to go around this policy. We're not doing it to spy on people. It's the only way the plus button works. Oh, yeah, and we'll use it to serve advertising. If you +1 something, that tells us, it's a signal to us that you're interested in that product. So you may see ads tailored to your interests. Same thing with Facebook. So Wall Street Journal says, this is a huge violation of privacy. Google goes, oh, my goodness, you're right. They backed down. Might have been a mistake. They basically admitted guilt. And now the Federal Trade Commission has been asked to investigate because Google is sneaking around behind Apple. And the whole tech press world is agreeing. Oh, shame on Google. Evil, evil, evil. But I read an interesting blog post by a guy named John Battelle. It's called, he actually runs a advertising network. So he knows a little bit about this whole issue. He said, you know who really is evil here? It's Apple. Apple's breaking the open web by turning off third-party cookies. This is how companies, remember I talked way back when, at the beginning of this conversation, about there's 2 ways to monetize your website. You either serve ads or you ask people to pay. He says Apple's breaking this whole notion of sites making money. They're pretending to protect your privacy, but what Apple's really doing is saying, no, we want to control the open web by turning off third-party cookies. Now, John's argument is there's some truth in it, but it's also a little bit weakened by the fact that you can go in the settings on Safari on iPhone and turn it off. Say, no, I want advertising. Who's right here? That's my question. Is Google evil or Apple? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Dickie D!
Yes, sir.
Would you mind waiting for a moment while I talk about Stamps.com?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Do you ever go to the post office, Dick?
Rarely.
How do you mail stuff?
I have Myra bring it to the post office.
I mean, do you ever stamp and mail things? Or maybe you just don't even use snail mail anymore?
Well, you know what? The only thing I mail is stuff I sell on eBay.
You got to get this. Yeah, you're an eBay seller. Well,
Yeah.
so that means you go to the post office.
Well, they come to me.
Well, how do you put the stamps on it?
Oh, well, you know, when you sell something, it says send this to your eBay buyer, and you clicks it and it prints the postage for you.
Really? And how do you give them money?
They take it out of my PayPal.
Oh, that's
account.
cool. Well, you don't really need Stamps.com.
But I'll get them.
You should, because it's the same idea. So it's the same idea, except that this is free. You get the scale. It's a USB scale. So you have that scale, but you bought it. You put the thing on
the
there.
My Way, right.
Yeah, the My Way.
But
this is just like the My Way. It's a USB scale.
Nice looking scale.
It's free. And then you put that, so it plugs into the computer. You have your Stamps.com software. You press a button. It goes this will be that. It prints out on your printer. It prints out the postage. And just like what you do, you call the post office. They come and they get it.
Nice.
You never go to the post office, and you always have the right amount of postage, which is kind of cool. That's what I like about Stamps.com. They are raising the postage rates, which means a lot of people will be in the post office in the next few months getting the new stamps. Stamps.com even lets you. I bet you can't do this. International mail. You don't mail outside the U.S., do you?
I do not.
Because you don't want to handle all those forms. Stamps.com does it for you. So somebody buys it from Switzerland. Yeah, you're going to love this. It automatically prints out the forms filled out for you, or anything additional you add on the screen. So you get the postage, you get the international postage, you get all the forms, and again, the mail carrier comes and they take it, and you don't have to do anything. I love Stamps.com.
That sounds great. Sounds good.
And I bet you eBay doesn't give you 21% off express mail and 15% off on priority mail, does it? No.
I scoff.
They actually charge you 15% more, probably. So this is another great thing about Stamps.com. The post office likes it when what a surprise. They don't want you coming in either. It means they have to work. So what they do is they give you discounts you cannot get at the post office when you use Stamps.com. So all around, I think this is the right solution for any eBay seller, any Amazon seller, anybody who ships internationally, any small business. We certainly use it here. It turns your desk into a post office. I want you to try it right now. We got a special offer. It's the no-risk trial includes the digital scale that I mentioned and $55 free postage. They give you coupons for free postage and a month's trial of Stamps.com, and all you have to do is use the offer code TechGuy. So go to Stamps.com. I'll show you. It's actually really easy. And you'll never go to the post office again, nor will Myra. You just Myra's going to love you when you do this. You go to Stamps.com. Now, notice on the front, you see that don't get fooled. It says $80 value. No. Don't click that. Don't! Click the little microphone above it. Heard about us on the radio? Yes. Then, you enter in Tech Guy, press go, and if you don't see my smiling face, don't do it. See, suddenly 80 went to 110. Little more, just because you use the Tech Guy code. Stamps.com. Turn your desk into a post office. Who's that jerk? Somebody said. That's me. Stamps.com. We love them, and I know you will too. Now, let's continue with the Tech Guy radio programming.
With C. Who cares about other things? C is for cookie. That's good enough for me. C is for cookie.
The Cookie Monster. I'm waiting for the article from the Wall Street Journal saying the Cookie Monster's watching what you're doing. It's, you know, the problem is this is all somewhat technical and difficult, and most consumers don't really pay any attention to it. It might creep you out. In fact, it has me. You go to Facebook, and suddenly it knows that I'm a 55-year-old man living in Petaluma, California, and it gives me ads that even say 55-year-old men in Petaluma, California are meeting young women online using this website. I'm not kidding you. Well, it doesn't say young. Actually, I think it says old women online. It says senior. It does, in fact, say, want to meet women older than you? And the question is, well, how the heck? Now, when you're on Facebook, you kind of know because you gave that information to Facebook. But how does Google know it when I'm reading my Gmail? Or how does Wall Street Journal know it when I'm visiting the Wall Street Journal site? And it does that with cookies. The thing to understand, it feels creepy, but the thing to understand is that they're not doing it at you personally. They're not like keeping track of Leo Laporte's behavior. Exactly. They couldn't go, you know, somebody couldn't go and say, I want to buy an ad that Leo sees. They can say, I want to buy ads that 55-year-old men in Northern California see. They can buy that. And that, in fact, is what advertisers want. The question is it what you, the advertisee, wants? And I think it is the future. Many people say, you know, I'd rather see an ad that's relevant to my interest than an ad that's completely useless to me. That's just wasting my time. I think the creep out factor is high. Maybe you saw the article about how Target knew that a teenage girl was pregnant before her parents did. This isn't involving cookies. That's the point. This happens off the web as well. New York Times wrote an article about a statistician named Andrew Pohl who works for Target and was asked by Target's marketers, if we wanted to figure out if a customer is pregnant, even if she didn't want us to know, could you do that? Why? Well, turns out if you are a retail outlet like Target, and there are very few opportunities for you to change people's shopping behavior. People go to the store they go to for milk. They go to the store they go to for clothes. And they may not, even though Target sells everything, they may not see Target as their grocery place, for instance. They may not buy diapers there. They may say, oh, no, Target's where I go to buy clothing. So they advertise, and perhaps you've seen these Target ads where they show how many different things they sell. That's one way they do it. But really, it's very hard to change people's behavior. There's one time, it turns out, when it's easy to change their behavior. When they have a baby, a newborn, they've got no time, they haven't slept, they're exhausted, they go to Target to pick up diapers, and oh, hey, they got milk and everything else, I'll get it here, I don't want to make another stop. And suddenly you may have this one opportunity to change their behavior for life. It is worth a lot of money. Problem is, once you have a baby, everybody knows you've had a baby. I remember this very well. We got home from the hospital, and the mail was full of offers for parents of newborns because it's a public record. So the trick is, according to this article, which is fascinating, they want to get women in their second trimester when most expectant mothers start buying all sorts of new things. So the marketers went to this statistician and said, can you give us a list of customers in their second trimester? We knew if we could identify them in their second trimester, there's a good chance we could capture them for years. And as soon as we get them buying diapers, they're going to start buying everything else. Well, it turns out that when you go to Target, you get a unique code. They call it their guest ID number. This sounds a little bit like a cookie, doesn't it? Keeps track on everything you buy. If you use a credit card or a coupon or fill out a survey or mail in a refund or call the customer helpline or open an email we've sent you or visit our website, we record it and link it to your guest ID. Makes it even easier if you've got one of those special cards, you know. They always try to get you there. Then it's trivial. Now we know everything you buy. And they, by the way, I think people don't mind this. They understand. I think when you get one of those grocery store cards or a Target card, you know that in return for lower prices, you're giving them information. It's a kind of an open transaction, isn't it? Well, by looking at what you're buying, what magazines you read, your ethnicity, your job history, they can buy data about your bankruptcy or your divorce, the year you bought or lost your house, when you went to college, what kind of topics you talk about online, what kinds of coffee, paper towels, cereal, applesauce you prefer. And by combining all that information with in the Target Guest Marketing Analytics Department, they can do predictions on whether you are, let's say, about to have a baby in 6 months. And it's pretty darn accurate. So this happens offline. Absolutely. I remember 30 years ago doing an interview on the radio with a guy who said, give me your zip code. And he could tell me with some accuracy what kinds of cars my neighbors and I drove, what kind of magazines we subscribed to, because people cluster demographically among like kinds. And it's gotten better and better and better. Now, the web certainly helps that. It's a lot more information, but it has never been the only source, and this has been going on for years. So now we know the whole story. Google is, in fact, what Google was doing was pretty benign. They just wanted to put a +1 button on the page. That's all they wanted to do. But by pulling it down, by changing, oh my God, we got caught by the Wall Street Journal, we're in trouble, they effectively kind of changed the debate to, oh, they did it, they were caught. Google even said we did it by accident. Oh, dear. Apparently, there was some internal discussion at Google about whether they should try to explain what they were doing, and they decided that we are all too dumb to figure it out. They're probably right for a lot of people. Because you heard that discussion. I'm sure it was confusing, wasn't it? How does Google do that in a 30-second commercial? They can't. So they decided instead of, internally, they decided instead of explaining what they were doing and why it's benign, they fell on their sword and said, yeah, we did it. We were wrong. We did it by accident. We're not going to do it anymore. Oh, boy. Now, I admit there's two sides to this story, and I'd love to hear what you think. Is it evil for Google to bypass Apple's privacy restrictions and then use the information they garner to market to you? Or is, as John Battelle says, Apple evil because Apple says, no, anybody uses an iPhone or iPad is our customer. We want to sell them the ads. We have our own ad platform called iAds. We know all this information. We don't want anybody else, especially Google, to know that information. You know, you understand what's really happening. These big, ginormous companies are battling over us. They're really fighting over us, our habits, our dollars, our attention. And they don't really care what we think. They really don't. 8888 Ask Leo. And, you know, the truth, my opinion is you're getting a lot of great free stuff on the internet. Facebook's free. It's awesome. We need to understand that when we put information on the internet, we're giving it to marketers in return for this great free resource. End of conversation, in my opinion. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's talk home theater right after this. I forgot Scott Wilkinson's celebrating his wife's birthday. He's taking the week off, but you know, I am playing with his TV here. We got one of these. Samsung showed these at CES, these TVs with smart apps. But, you know, I don't know if this is the newest one because this is Yahoo widgets on this Samsung. It's the UN4060-8000. I'll tell you, these things are computers. You got to go through you even have a license agreement, 48-page license agreement that you got to agree to. Well, that's how you know it's a computer. When's the last time you had to agree to a license agreement to watch your TV? No. And of course, they don't, you know, Apple does, it's a funny thing on the iPhone and the iPad. They often upgrade their license agreements. And they'll say things like, this is a 48-page agreement. Do you agree to it? Would you like to read it? 48 pages on the iPhone. Or would you like to email it? We will email it to you so you can read it at your leisure. Which means, of course, that you now put down the iPhone, wait till you get home, open up the computer, read it on your email, 48 pages, then go back to your iPhone, pick it up, say, yeah, I agree to that, except that I wonder. I would love to see the numbers. How many people say, yeah, email me the agreement. I'd like to read that over before I say yes. You just check it, right? You just say, yeah, come on, get out of my way. Please, I'm trying to use this here. Ooh. Where'd this come from? Nice new phone. People just hand me phones. Isn't that nice? Let's get to the phone. So we don't have Scott Wilkinson today. I'll talk a little bit about TVs. I know a little bit about them. I do. But we can also talk about computers, cell phones, the internet. And I'd love to talk about privacy and whether you feel that companies that are giving you free services like Google what is their we haven't paid for any Google service ever, right? I don't think. Well, if you do Google Docs for business, that's it. But otherwise, everything's free. And you got to figure Google's got to make some money. So they show ads. I think everybody understands you're going to see some ads on Gmail and these other free services. And to make those ads more effective for the marketers, although you could make a case it's also better for you, they use information that they glean about you from keywords in your email, from search terms, from videos you watch on YouTube, from things you like with the Google Plus button, things like that. Is that so wrong? And if, as some do, you opt out, you decide not to give, by the way, I'm on the New York Times site in which they're complaining about all of this stuff. And what do I see? A giant ad that I have to look at this ad in order to see the news. Somebody's got to pay for this stuff. Advertisers pay for it. I don't have a problem with that. And I don't think they're really collecting information. I guess the question is, this also goes back to the story a couple of weeks ago about Path uploading your contact information. I guess the question is, are you worried that these companies are somehow like spying on you, like they care about what you're doing? Because isn't that really what we're saying if we don't like this is, well, I just don't want them to follow me around. Well, I don't blame you. I don't want them to follow me around. I just don't think they do. I don't think they care. I think they're using this to tailor ads to my interests, and that seems not so bad. But am I wrong? You can tell me. Chris is in Greenville, South Carolina. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Leo. Very, very happy to talk to you. I have, first of all, I want to say thanks. You've actually inspired me to do some podcasting myself, and may even be getting one of your personalities out to do a show in my hometown. So.
That's great. What's your podcast about?
It's going to be related to music, percussion in particular.
Neat. This is exactly how it should be. And, I used to say this about the web. Everybody who has a specialty, however obscure, in fact, the more niche, the better. You should blog about it. You should write about it. You should make videos. You should make podcasts, because that's what enriches the web and your expertise. So if you're really into percussion, absolutely. What a great idea for a podcast.
And we're going to do videos and all that kind of thing, too. So it should be great.
So
we'll
cool.
see.
So cool.
My question is actually, I've been listening the last couple of days about the new Apple OS coming out, so it inspired me to finally upgrade to Lion. I've been holding off for a while, and I finally did it last night, and now it won't recognize my external hard drive, and I'm obviously concerned about that.
Yes, I wouldn't be happy all of a sudden. I don't think that has to do with the upgrade to Lion, although it does sound a little bit coinkydink.
Okay.
So,
that was the only change. It's been working fine for.
Is it a USB external hard drive? It is. Yeah.
It is.
And if you take that hard drive, you plug it into another machine. Can you see what's on that drive?
It seems to be working fine on other drives.
With the cable and the drive itself.
The cable and the drive itself, I can see it in Disk Utility, but I can't. If I run First Aid, it just kind of stops. It won't run First Aid on it.
Interesting. So in Disk Utility, which is a nice little tool that Apple provides with its operating system, you can see that the drive is in fact mounted,
right?
But you can't actually do anything with it.
Correct. And I pulled up Utilities very quickly to see if I can run it real quick, just to give you the exact message.
That's interesting. I would think that. It sounds like something's wrong with the drive, not that.
Now I can run repair disk. Repair disk, it verifies and reads everything, and it comes out and seems to show everything fine. But when I boot up the system, the first thing it shows is that it won't mount the system. It won't mount the hard drive.
Now, the hard drive is formatted for Macintosh or Windows?
Macintosh.
And you understand that Lion completely changes how the Finder works. I do. Yeah. So you've looked to see if if you look, and you don't even see the computer anymore, which we used to see in Finder, but you've gone to computer and you still don't see it.
Yeah, it's not. I can't see it all in Finder.
That's very odd. So I'll just go through this for people who do make this upgrade. That normally when you say go in the Finder, you don't see the computer. You have to go to it, and that'll show you all the drives mounted, and you don't see that drive there at all.
I do not. No.
Huh. Well, you got me. I don't know what exactly is wrong, but I have to think that the hard drive somehow could be in the upgrade process, or could be that upgrading the Lion somehow showed up something else. Is there stuff on the hard drive that you can't replace that you need, or is it just?
I mean, everything's backed up.
So it's a backup drive.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not a backup drive, but everything on it is backed up. Pretty.
I hate to do this. My suggestion. Well, somebody in the chat room is giving me a link to an Apple Tech discussion. 3345863. External hard drives won't mount in Lion. It says, zap the pram and reset the SMC.
Yeah, I saw that last night, and I actually just opened that link from the chat room. And I don't. Okay.
So, it's not a bad idea to zap the pram. It's funny that still is applicable. Gosh, we used to do that ages ago on Macintoshes. That's when you reboot and you hold down Command, Option, P, and R. Mm-hmm. And what that does, the pram is the same thing on the Windows side as the ESCD. It's a parameter RAM. It's a non-volatile area of memory that holds information about configurations. And it's possible that got munged. And then there's the system management controller. And that's a little bit more tricky. But I would try what that article suggests, Chris. Otherwise, I don't know of any reason why that should have happened. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Yeah, the agreement, the consensus is, and this is always the case, we talk about upgrading your operating system. When you're doing it in place, that is when you're taking, in this example, Snow Leopard, and you're downloading Lion from the App Store and installing it. Or if you're on a Windows machine and you've got Windows Vista and you say, I want Windows 7, and you install it, and you just run it without erasing the drive. You just run it on top of it. I liken it to that old magician's trick, where they whip the tablecloth out from a fully set table, all the plates and everything and the glasses, and they all stay there. But it's actually worse than that, because you're whipping the tablecloth out and then you're putting a new one in. And the idea is we're going to change the operating system without disrupting any of the china or silverware, glassware. It's hard. And so sometimes, things go wrong. The truth is, I have upgraded every Mac I have to Lion that way. But if it's a problem, then it's generally a good idea to do what we usually call a clean install. And Apple makes that pretty easy normally, not with Lion, unfortunately. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Normally, and certainly it's very easy on Windows, you just run the installer and you say, you know what, erase the drive. Let's start fresh. And that's a good process to go through every year or so anyway. Now, Apple changed the way Lion installs. It's a download from the App Store. And unless you have some, secret knowledge, there's really no way to do a clean install in Lion. It's possible. You can move it over to you have to open it's complicated. You open the package, and there's inside the package, there's hidden inside a folder, there's an actual installer, which you could copy to a USB key and reboot. And then, you can make a boot drive. In fact, that's the first thing I did when I got downloaded Lion, is I got a big USB key. 4-gigabyte USB key, and I put Lion on that, and that's how I installed in many cases. Because in my opinion, it's always better to install clean in an operating system. It's going to be less troublesome. Now get ready, because Apple has decided to upgrade operating systems every year from now on. And with Lion, they did offer a USB for $69, a USB key option, so you could buy media. There wasn't a CD or a DVD. It was a USB key, but at least you could buy media and make that clean install. They've decided not to do that again. They said nobody did it. Everybody downloaded it from the App Store. So Apple did announce, in a very big shock, nobody knew about this ahead of time except for some hand-picked journalists, of whom, of course, I am not. I am not in that elite cadre of Apple lovers. They briefed those guys ahead of time, but they announced to the world on I think it was Thursday morning. Hey, yeah, by the way, 6 a.m. Thursday morning Pacific time. Oh yeah, by the way, later this summer we're gonna release Mountain Lion, the next version of Apple. And by the way, it'll only be available in the App Store. Oh, and by the way, if you have a Mac older than 4 years, forget it. You can't go there. If anybody, and this is, by the way, what I'm about to say is exactly why Apple no longer lets me in their events or sends me advanced copies of anything. If anybody thinks Apple is not being predatory at this point, they are absolutely. There's just no doubt about it. Oh, yeah, you got to buy a new 4 years old. Oh, yeah, we won't run on anything past 2008. If you have an Intel GMA video, motherboard video on your Mac, forget it. You have to buy a new computer. Now, you might say, oh, well, that's all right. I guess I'll say with the latest version, Snow Leopard or Leopard or, well, get ready, because it's only a matter of time before applications demand that you be running the latest version. Apple's is really forcing developers to do that with this new gatekeeper technology, which is admittedly a great security technology. Apple is acting, in my opinion, extremely predatorially. And I could tell you, any company that makes Microsoft look like the good guy really is doing something bad. They're making Microsoft look like the open platform. You will only be able to buy Mountain Lion in the App Store. There's a switch in Mountain Lion that says, and I expect they will leave this on by default, but we'll see, and certainly they'll encourage you to turn it on, only run apps that are purchased in the Apple Store, the App Store. Only, just like on your phone, on your iPhone, you can only buy apps from Apple on the iPhone or the iPad. Isn't that right? That's what they want to do on the desktop. That's where they're moving. Their excuse, well, it's secure. We're this gatekeeper technology because if the app is in the App Store, that means it's followed our procedures for absolute security and it's going to be safe. By the way, how's that working out in the Apple App Store for the iOS? Is that working? No, it's not. Plenty of unsafe apps have been put on the App Store. No, it'll be safe. We got gatekeeper. And Apple takes 30% of all product sales and controls the platform, makes sure that there's nothing competing with Apple's fundamental products. Completely predatory. And the only reason they don't get in trouble for it is because they only have about 5 or 6% of the desktop market. They're not a monopoly. If Apple had the 95% that Windows used to have, oh, stand back. It'd be worse. It'd be worse. Very disappointed in that, I have to say. But it will be more secure. It will be very much like the iPad. Mountain Lion should be out end of summer. And interesting because they made this announcement 2 weeks before Microsoft released its consumer preview of Windows 8, which is very much tableted operating system. And I think it's interesting. I think Apple is paying attention to Microsoft. They're a little worried, perhaps, that Windows 8, especially the Windows 8 on ARM, the tablet edition, might eat a little bit of their business on the iPad side. They have such dominance on the iPad. 8888 asks Leo, it's a very interesting world. It's a we're shifting towards companies just really and not competing, not cooperating, but competing with each other in bloodthirsty ways. You know, for now anyway, you still need security on your desktop, I have to say, and but I have a feeling that in the next version of OS 10, by the way, they don't call it Mac OS 10. This is also an interesting change. They took the word Mac out. It's just OS 10. Another indicator that Apple really sees itself as a consumer platform and that everything is going to look like the iPad and the iPhone, even the desktops. More and more like the iPad and iPhone. There's no more. Face it, and it makes me very sad to say this, there's no more Mac. They're just going to be different flavors of iPads. Bert in Northridge, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. How are you today?
I am well. How are you?
Not too bad. I have my main question, and I have a follow-up secondary if you have time.
Yeah, well, we got a minute till the top of the hour, but if you don't mind hanging through the news at the top of the hour.
Not at all.
All right.
First one was about the difference between the iPad 2, the Samsung, and the, what I understand, the Acer quad-core tablet.
Yes, the Transformer Prime.
For presenting to customers photographs and things like that.
Well, yeah, and as long as we're talking, we might as well add the iPad 3. The drumbeat's pretty strong that's coming out in March 7th. They will make the announcement. And some say, although it's not clear, that we'll see a new quad-core processor from Apple called the A9. What's interesting is, in every respect, all of these processors are based on the same ARM technology. So I'll talk about ARM. I'll talk about the Exynos and the Snapdragon and the A8 and the A9 when we come back. What is faster? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, a good day to you, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're talking computers, the internet, Macintosh and Windows, home theater, cell phones, all the gadgets, the gewgaws, the doohickeys in your life at 8888 Ask Leo, 888-827-5536. That's toll-free from anywhere in the U.S. Use Skype out. You can call us from anywhere in the world without paying a penny. You can also visit our website, techguylabs.com, techguylabs.com. You pay it a visit because it's soon to be changed to the new and improved techguylabs.com. I can't wait. But you will find there a link to our chat. 896 people in there. Some great conversation going on about all the things I've talked about. You've got the Apple folks saying, no, we love Apple. They can do no wrong. You've got other people saying, what is Apple doing? You've got the Google lovers, the Google haters. It's just like politics now. You know, you pick a side and fight. 8888 Ask Leo's the number. We were talking to Bert in Northridge, California before the break. He wanted to know, and it's a good question, a question most people don't ask. He wanted to know about the processors that are in these tablet devices and which is the best. And they're made by a variety of companies, but they all come from a company called ARM. ARM. It's kind of an interesting story, actually. ARM was created by, get ready for this, Apple. Many moons ago. They formed ARM in a partnership with, believe it or not, BBC Britain and the BBC Micro Acorn Computers to make RISC chips. That is a different kind of processor from the chips that we had up to then seen in desktop computers. Apple was interested in the ARM chip, I believe, because of the Newton. Oh, my goodness. And they had a big investment in ARM. And then decided that RISC was wrong and went and sold it. But ARM kind of piddled along in the 90s. And then along come portable devices, like started with cell phones and then tablets. And it turns out the ARM architecture is perfect for devices that need good battery life, that need to be compact. They're a little less powerful, perhaps, than the desktop chips that we use from Intel. But they have some features that make them much more desirable for these kind of, miniature mobile devices. So ARM doesn't make any chips. They design them. They're what we call a fabless chip company. They don't have a fabrication facility. They make a design, which they then license to companies including Texas Instruments, Qualcomm, Samsung, and others. And then that code, that design, is incorporated into a system on a chip, or SoC, that is then put in these mobile devices. So when you get a mobile phone, a smartphone, I can't think of any exception. In every case, it's running on an ARM-based chip. Different companies make them. I use a Samsung Galaxy Note, by the way, which I love. Now, the one I use is the European version. That chip is an Exynos chip based on the ARM that's made by Samsung. If you buy it from AT&T, you'll get a Qualcomm chip. Both are designed around the ARM platform. And that's one of the reasons that Android works on so many different phones. It's all basically the same processor. So when you ask, and now there are single core, just as there are on the desktop, there are single core ARM designs. There are dual core. That means there's two processors in one chip. And there's now quad core. You mentioned the Asus Transformer Prime that has 4 processors in a single die, the single plastic chip that goes into that. Now, multiple processors have advantages and disadvantages. The advantage really only accrues when you're doing more than one thing at a time, or the thing you're doing can be divided up into multiple paths. We call it multi-threaded. Most applications are not multi-threaded. They will just use one of those chips. But on a smartphone and a mobile device, you're often doing more than one thing at a time. So you do get some advantage from multiple cores, but not as much as you'd think. A quad-core chip is not 4 times faster than a single-core chip. And in fact, for a lot of applications like gaming, a faster single-core is preferable for smaller or slower cores, because you're only using one core, so that faster clock speed is better. So it's as you can see, it's very complicated. Most of the new smartphones coming out will be dual-core, but we are starting to see some quad-core chips and quad-core tablets, absolutely. And there is some question. We don't know yet if the iPad 3, which we're pretty sure is going to be coming out next month, is dual or quad-core. But the thinking is pretty strong, and from people who've seen it, it's very snappy. And, of course, it's going to have – we do know we're pretty sure we'll have the Retina display, a double resolution display. And for that reason alone, it probably will need more processing power. And so we expect it'll have what Apple calls the A9. Now, Apple makes this chip. Actually, Samsung makes it for Apple. But Apple designs it. It's, guess what, based on ARM. So it's very difficult to say when you ask me, what's the better processor? Because they're highly customized for the applications they're going to be used for. For instance, Apple knows exactly what kinds of things people will be doing with an iPad. They won't be doing Flash, for instance. So there are no optimizations for Flash in the Apple chips. And it's thought that Apple can get more speed out of their chips and better battery life by making a custom chip, as they do, because they know very well exactly how that device is going to be used. So there are benchmarks. If you read any of the sites that review these portable platforms, The Verge or Engadget, GDGT, AnandTech. I like AnandTech because they're very geeky, and they do the benchmarks, I think very well. There are, all sorts of ways to do benchmarks. But if you look at the benchmarks, those are synthetic programs you run on these devices to compare speeds. You'll see some differences, but in my opinion, they're minor. Okay. And this has always been the case, a 10% difference in speed is not really noticeable. It needs to be more than that for you to notice much difference.
Right. Yeah, I'm not interested in the speed so much as to the application on presenting product information to customers. Yeah, in that case, probably those are graphical, right? Yeah. There's pictures. Yeah. So in that case, you really want you want to get more complicated? You want a good GPU, graphics processing unit. So I've been talking about the CPU. It's all included in one chip, but there are different GPUs, graphics units, in each of these tablets as well.
I would say if you want the fastest tablet out there right now, today, it's the Asus Transformer Prime, which is a quad-core processor. But I suspect, Apple's done very, very well in their iPad designs, and I suspect that the A9 chip will be used in the next iPad. It will come out next month, I believe, and I think it will be lightning fast. And this might be more important to you, Bert, it will... the rumors are very strong, be a Retina display, which means instead of 1024 by 768, that's 1024 dots across and 768 dots top to bottom, or lines top to bottom. It will be double that, 2048 by what is it? By 50. It'll be. They say it's stunning. That when you see it, it looks real. So I would suggest if what you're looking at is the best possible display of products, is wait and see what the iPad does.
I'll wait.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Yeah.
I have one other quick question.
Sure.
If you a second. Mm-hmm. I have an AOL problem.
Okay. We go from the future to the past.
Yes, that's true. And all my customers have my AOL screen name, so I'm sort of stuck there. On one of my laptops.
Hang on a second, because it took so long explaining ARM that now I have to take another break. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. All right. I'm thinking it's a Mario. You can really tell there's a generational difference to my generation and the Nintendo generation. Okay, I give up, Kyle Benham. Mario?
Super Mario.
Super Mario. Mario. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. I never played Mario. Yeah, I was too old by the time that came out. I was an adult. So I had an Atari 2600, and then I don't know. I think I skipped a generation and went to the Sega Genesis. Missed that whole Nintendo generation, the N64. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. All right, Bert has one more quick question, and then we're going to move on.
Okay.
Hi, Bert, go ahead.
Okay, real quick, two laptops.
AOL problem.
Laptop A and B. Laptop A. Try to log into AOL, log in, go to new mail, will not access new mail, but can get old mail. Laptop B, no problem at all.
I don't know. I have to say, it's been a while since I've been an AOL user, so I'm not familiar with the problems AOL is heir to. Maybe the chat room has an idea.
Reinstall, but it wouldn't do it.
Yeah, wouldn't reinstall, huh? Are you doing it in a browser, or are you doing it with the AOL software?
Well, it was in the original disk when I first bought it.
So that's the AOL software, not a browser. So if you used Internet Explorer or Chrome or Firefox, and you can, by the way, and that's what I would suggest, try getting your AOL mail on that machine that's not getting new mail. Go to mail, open a browser window, go to mail.aol.com and log in there, and you'll probably see the new mail there. It sounds like the caches or something like that is screwed up in the AOL software. What a surprise. That thing, that I can't, do they even update their software anymore?
I think probably every century and a half.
Yeah. Now, that's the problem, because you have an AOL address, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you don't want an AOL in classic predatory fashion will not allow you to forward your AOL mail to, let's say, Gmail, which is what you'd really like to do. What you'd like to do is tell AOL, look, if mail comes to me, can you just please send it to this Gmail account? And then start moving your customers away from AOL.com and move to gmail.com or something like that.
Okay.
That would be because how long? AOL does not want to be in this business. You remember, America Online started off as an internet service provider. Essentially, they weren't even internet really in the earliest days of AOL. It was a what we called a walled garden. You could only see AOL content, talk to people with AOL screen names. They had all the features. It was nice, but it didn't go out to the rest of the world. Then they added internet access, and it was kind of funky, but it worked. And you could then, people could email you from other services and so forth. They had to do that. Then they bought Time Warner, and everything changed considerably. And then Time Warner got rid of them, and now AOL really, I think, sees itself as a content company. They don't want to have anything to do with internet service or the walled garden. They still maintain it because they've got customers who are dependent on them, and they'd be holy heck to pay if they said, yeah, we're going to shut down AOL. But the time will come. The time will come because really all their money's going towards the Huffington Post and all of these AOL content companies. This is the future, Engadget, TechCrunch. They're a content company. They're like a newspaper for the internet. And so they don't really want to maintain any of this stuff anymore. It's long gone. So I just, if you're on AOL, I feel for you. But you might want to start telling people, hey, I have another address. You know what the best thing to do, in my opinion, would be is to register a domain somewhere. Go to hover.com or one of the domain registrars and say, register your name or register something. I couldn't get leolaporte.com, so I got leoville.com, and it's too late. I can't change it. But the good news is I can use any service provider for my email, whether it's my internet service provider. It could even be AOL or Google or Yahoo. I use an Australian company called Fastmail. There's Island Email. There's lots of different companies. But you don't need to know that. People who write to me just write to leoville.com, and it gets forward to whoever I'm using today for my email service provider. So the idea is you get a vanity domain name. Make it your, it looks so much more professional if it's your business's name, right? If it's business mail. I have to say, I do not take a business seriously if their email address ends at @AOL.com. It's hard for me to take them seriously. But if it's at chuckycheese.com, no, hey, that's a business. That's a serious business. If the business is Chuck E. Cheese, it's a serious. If it's not, then it's something else going on there. But so it's a good idea, and even for your personal email, when my kids, I can't say it was when they were born because they were born kind of pre-internet era, early 90s. But shortly thereafter, I registered their full name.com. And when I did, and of course they have no interest in it still. They're teenagers. So I registered for it, I think, for 10 years, figuring, well, by the time they're in their mid-20s, they'll either know they want it or the internet will be something else entirely and it won't matter. But they have, both of them have their full names.com. Because I figure by the time they're adults, they might want an email address that is their name. And I think that's probably what everybody should look at. And unfortunately, if your name's Art Bell, you're not going to get artbell.com. So if you have a kind of more generic name, it's going to be more difficult. johnsmith.com, I'm sure, is taken. So you might have to be a little clever around it. The Smith family, something like that. But I think it's a good idea to have a domain name that you own. And then almost any you could go to lots of different companies will then forward that mail to any internet email provider you want. I think Google Mail is perfectly good. You may say, I don't want them looking through my mail to put ads in there, and I would understand that. Then you could do a different service, a paid service. But I think that's the solution in the long run. And if you're still at AOL.com, By the way, Dr. Mom has given me a link, and I didn't know this was possible, but Google actually says there is a way to get mail from your AOL account into Gmail. So let's put that link in our show notes at techguylabs.com, and then Bert can it would be a good interim step to register a Gmail account and just have that AOL mail start flowing into the Gmail account. It means you'd never have to look at AOL again. You could just go to Gmail. Gmail has some additional services that I think are great. Chiefly, it's very good spam filtering. You won't see any more spam anymore. But it also has other services I like, the priority inbox, things like that you might like. So thank you, Dr. Mom. I guess it is possible to get your AOL mail into Gmail. And I suspect if that's the case, then it's probably possible to get it into any email system. It means that AOL is giving you POP access, kind of traditional email access. So that's good news. That's good news. And then just, come up with a name for your own domain. Everyone should have their own domain, don't you think? 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. If you've got a question, a comment, a suggestion, if you want to tell me, I'm full of it. I'm Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'm Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Back to the phones we go. 8888 Ask Leo. Janelle, listening in Long Beach, California. Hi, Janelle. Leo Laporte.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for hanging on. I appreciate your patience.
Yeah, we like to listen to you and stay abreast of all the things that we don't know anything about. So that's why I'm calling. I have something that my mother asked me about, and I don't know anything about it. It's called identity. Let's see. Sorry, I got to look it up.
Identity fraud? Identity theft?
No. It's called LifeLock Identity Theft Protection.
Yes.
AOL is offering it free to her, and she doesn't know if she needs it, and I don't know anything about it.
I actually pay for LifeLock. So
I'm sorry?
I pay for LifeLock. I use LifeLock.
Oh,
so
okay, but
if it's free, I'd take it.
okay, so what are the benefits? I want to explain it to my mother.
LifeLock used to be really great, and then, unfortunately, the three big credit reporting agencies kind of hobbled them. The idea of LifeLock was to prevent identity theft. So this is a problem that is not exclusively online. In fact, most of the time it occurs because people went through your trash and found credit card offers, things like that. Occasionally it can happen online. People steal, for instance, if you let your social security number and birth date leak out, or they steal some personal information about you. They can pretend to be you and apply for credit cards. Apply, and rack up some bills and then take off because it isn't them, it's you. And then the real problem comes when the credit card companies go after you and you say, but that wasn't me. So identity fraud or identity theft can be very time-consuming and costly to you. Cleaning up your credit record after it's stolen is really a pain. So in the old days, LifeLock was great. LifeLock, and by the way, the problem here is that Experian and the other credit reporting agencies make money by selling your information to credit card companies. That's why in the mail you get all those offers for credit cards, and they know all about you. They say, hey, you've been pre-approved. You've been pre-approved because they bought your information from TransUnion or from Experian or I can't remember the third one. There's three big agencies. Those are the guys who keep track. Merchants and credit cards report to them on your credit history, your mortgage history, and so forth. They give you a score. Equifax, thank you. That's the third one. They give you a credit score, and when you apply for credit, these are the agencies that your realtor, your mortgage broker, your credit card company, your car dealer will go to and say, is she a good bet? So they really play in both sides of the fence. They make money not only on giving credit reports to legitimate agencies, but also to selling this to credit card companies so they can make credit card offers to you. And that's a really big business. So they don't like LifeLock. They actually engaged in a concerted publicity campaign against them. What LifeLock was doing, and it was so great, is they would go to these three agencies and they would put a fraud alert on your account. What a fraud alert does is it means that no one can get a credit report without your permission on you.
Wow.
It's great. The fraud alerts are good for a limited amount of time, usually 6 months. Then you have to get another one. If you ever do get your bank card stolen or an identity theft, they will tell you, oh, good, you could put in a fraud alert now. Go to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion and tell them you've been defrauded, and they'll put a fraud alert on for the next 6 months to keep people from stealing your identity. But LifeLock was doing this proactively. And these companies didn't like it. Why? Because they couldn't sell your information to companies to give you pre-approved credit cards. It cost them money. So they got the rules changed, and they made it so that LifeLock could no longer put fraud alerts out. So LifeLock is less useful than they used to be. They still do some useful things. They monitor your credit, and but I don't know if it's worth the money I pay for it. I do pay for it, not just for myself, but for my kids, because the worst thing is if you're a young person and you get your identity stolen, because then you could ruin your credit for life. So they do some good stuff. If you go to lifelock.com, you can see what they do. They're no longer allowed to put fraud reports on, fraud alerts on your account. That was the most useful thing they did. But if it's free, you bet, go for it.
Okay, but it sounds like you've also given me another good piece of advice that maybe I should go out and put some fraud alerts on mine.
I would. They'll get, you'll get pushback from these companies. They don't want to do it. And I should warn you, if you do put a fraud, and I've used this, by the way, and I love it. If you do put a fraud alert on and then you try to buy a car, the car dealer's going to, a red flag's going to go up, and the car dealer's going to say, I can't get your credit report. And then you say, it's completely fine. You say, no, I have a fraud alert on my account. Let me give them permission to give you the credit report. That's really the way it should be. No one should be able to ask for your personal information without your permission. But guess what? They do. They can. It happens all the time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the call. Yeah, call TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian and say, I want to lock my account. I want a fraud alert on my account. They don't like it. It's only a matter of time before it impacts you in some other way. To my knowledge, it doesn't. But I think, there's this kind of unhealthy nexus. Really, this is the topic of the show today, isn't it? Privacy and so forth. These companies, which have more information about you than Google, they know every place you've lived, every credit card you've ever received, every offer you've ever received, the total amount of credit that you could get if you wanted it, how much you've borrowed. They know everything about you. And with very little limitation, they can give that information to other people. So I maintain a LifeLock account because it's better than nothing. I wish we could still do that automatic fraud alert. I thought that was great. To me, it's worth it because the cost and trouble and time consumed in correcting identity fraud is so terrible. It's so painful that it's worth it to me to pay. I don't remember what it is, a couple $100 a year, something like that, for the service. And I do it for my kids as well. Because I think it's, I think as a parent, this is one of the things I need to do is to at least get them into the world with good credit. And after that, it's on them. Now, I would guess, and I'm pretty sure this is the case, Janelle, that it's not really a free deal. It's a trial offer. It's a come on. Because what they really want to do is get you in the door and then charge you for it. Because, LifeLock doesn't make a living giving you free protection. So that's another issue, and you might ask, well, okay, it's free. What do I get for free, and how long does it last? Because I bet you it's free for a month or two. The real scam, in my opinion, is freecreditreports.com, which actually turns out to be $17 a month. I don't know where they get the free part. It's free for a day or something. And then it's $17 a month or something. Free, really? There is one legitimate place you can go to get a free credit report. If you've ever been turned down for credit by anybody, a car dealer, a credit card company, anybody, by law, you can get a free credit report from the 3 big agencies and find out why you were turned down. And once a year, you can get a free credit report from the 3 big credit agencies. It's certainly something you should do. You should at least look at your credit report and see what it says. Keith in Tampa, Florida. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Keith.
Hey, Leo. How's it going?
I'm sorry. I didn't tell you. It's annualcreditreport.com. That's the legitimate one run by those 3 reporting agencies. Keith, hang on. We're going to get to you next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
You can have my credit card, baby. Keep your red hot fingers off of my heart, lady.
You can have my credit card, baby, but keep your fingers off my heart. So Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, the big 3 credit reporting agencies, do have a website, a legitimate, it is free website once a year you can go to. Once a year called annualcreditreport.com. And you don't have to pay for it. Now, it sounds like policies have changed because somebody in our studio, one of our visitors, says that that you can get a lock on your credit report, and then if you're willing to pay $10 to unlock it each time, that's not a bad way to go unless you apply for credit an awful lot. Most people don't. You know, you might get a credit card once a year. You might apply for a new credit card or buy a car or buy a house. That sounds like a good solution. And all three of them will do that. You lock the credit. You say nobody can get a credit report on me without my permission, and I have to pay $10. Yeah, they'll give you a little so they make a little money that way, right? They give you a PIN code. I'm going to do that. That's certainly cheaper than LifeLock. LifeLock does other things, but I have to say that's the single thing that you can do that really is effective, because if somebody can't get a credit card without your permission and your name, they're frozen out. All right, back we go to Tampa, Florida. Keith, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo, how's it going?
Thanks for your patience, Keith. I appreciate it. It's going well. You're a small businessman, huh? Not small in stature, just the business is small.
Well, my mom, she's the small business lady.
Uh-huh.
And she has asked me for advice about advertising on the internet. She has a website, and she set everything up and has everything ready to go, but we're not getting any customers.
Yes.
Best way of advertising on the internet.
What is she selling?
It's wearandshare.net. It's basically Netflix for baby clothes, where since babies outgrow clothes so fast.
What a great idea. That's a great idea. So parents, it's basically a hand-me-down system for babies.
Correct.
There are other companies doing something similar, I think, but this is a great idea. I would get the Comic Sans off the front page, but other than that, I think it's a great idea. So basically, the best way to buy advertising, in my opinion, is to use Google AdWords. And it's a little tricky. It takes some expertise. There are some pretty good books out there on it. The idea, Google's very smart. The idea is you buy the keyword that you want to have your ad show up with. So if somebody searches for baby clothes, this would be the one you should probably want. Somebody searches for baby clothes, an ad for Wear and Share would show up on the right. Very effective. But also, now the way they do this is clever. They do it via auction. And this way they maximize the amount of money they make, because the most valuable words are the most expensive. And I bet you, I'm willing to bet, baby clothes are pretty expensive, right? Because there's some big retailers probably use that keyword.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would investigate it. Google AdWords. If you just Google the word AdWords, you'll find everything you ever wanted to know about Google AdWords. It's google.com/AdWords. And you can set it up at no cost and try some words and see what the costs are, what the current price for that word is. I believe that's an effective way to do it, and I'll tell you why I believe it's effective. Everybody uses it. So that to me means they're getting a good return on investment. All you have to do is do a Google search of any kind. Let me try baby clothes right now on Google. This is a good idea. And I see ads for Carters.com, PumpkinPatchUSA.com, Zulily.com, OshKoshBagosh.com, HannahAnderson.com. Guess what? People are absolutely buying that key phrase, baby clothes. In fact, some pretty darn big companies are doing it, including Guess Kids, Ralph Lauren, J.C. Penney, Patagonia. So you'd be competing against some pretty big names. I bet you that term is expensive. Here's what I would recommend you do. Are you her webmaster?
No, I can be.
Well, either do it yourself or ask her webmaster to put Google Analytics on her page. It's very easy to do. It's free. It's just a little bit of JavaScript that goes on your site. And after it's run for a few weeks or a few months, one of the things Google Analytics will tell you is what search terms people are using to find your site. Now, admittedly, you're a new site and people don't know about you. You're working with a small subset, but it's a good idea to know, how do people find wearandshare.com? What are they searching for? Are they searching for used baby clothes? That might be the phrase that pays. So you pick, and the reason Google offers this for free is because that's the best way to find out what AdWords you want to buy. You want to buy the AdWords that people use most commonly, the search terms that people use most commonly to find your site. So if people are always finding your site by typing, used baby clothes, or maybe they're typing wear and share, who knows? Those are the words you want to buy. And then you have to decide, is it worth, the cost? And you buy the words from Google, of course, google.com/AdWords. I think it's a pretty good system. There are other forms of internet advertising. I think they are not as effective or economical. At least for now, everybody uses Google. The other choice is Facebook. And Facebook has a very similar system for selling Facebook ads onto pages. I would guess, actually, for something like wear and share, Facebook would be a really good ad place. And it's very easy to create ads on Facebook. In fact, if you go to your Facebook site, you'll see right on the right there where the ads are, create an ad. And it's very simple. They make it, as they should, very easy to buy an ad on Facebook. Again, because of the number of ads and the variety of ads from big companies on Facebook, I would guess that works pretty well. Now, you should, by the way, Keith, create for your mom a Facebook fan page for that business. You should create, use social networks. I think Facebook would probably be the best for that. Take advantage of that as well. The idea is get the name out. Now we go to Mike in Bloomington, California. Your scans are crooked, huh?
Yeah. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure, Mike.
I bought this NeatDesk. It's an organizing package where you can scan in your sketches.
I love it. Yeah, I have one of those scanners. You see the ads all the time. The key to that, by the way, is the software, because the software recognizes, oh, that's a receipt, oh, that's a business card, oh, that's a an invoice, and files it. When you put it in, though, is it going in straight?
Oh yeah. The problem, I think, with the scanner is they've designed it to where it'll scan a business card, so the rollers, the drive rollers, are right up in the center of the machine. So then you put in an 8.5 by 11 paper, and it's trying to drive it.
Do you have the desk scanner, the one with slots for 3 different sizes?
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
I haven't had that problem. I would say call Neat Receipts and say, hey, it's broken, because that isn't how it's supposed to be, and I don't think they would do very well if it were. If it's a hardware problem, they have to fix it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy, talking computers, and cell phones, and scanners, and big screen TVs, anything with a chip in it, anything digital. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. Our GizWiz is coming up 47 after the hour to talk gadgets with us. I was just looking at this Neat Receipts scanner. Now, I have the desk edition of the Neat Receipts scanner. Our caller at the end of the hour was complaining that the scans are coming in crooked, and he did mention, and it's true, that the rollers on this, instead of going all the way across, are in the center. That way they cover all 3 forms of documents that they're designed to handle: business cards, receipts, and full 8.5 by 11 documents. And of course, because the rollers are in the middle, they're going to hit right in the middle of all 3 of those documents. And we have a brain trust here in the studio with us today. Experts in all fields, including apparently this. One fella suggested maybe there's something on one of the rollers, an oil or something, that's keeping it from getting a good grip. That certainly could be part of the problem. Another said maybe the software is not timing it properly and it's getting it skewed because of that. That seems unlikely. I think it's much more likely a physical issue within the scanner. And, these are fairly complicated devices compared to regular scanners. They've got document feeds, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's something wrong with it. And the only people who really could tell you would be the Neat Receipts folks. I do like the idea of the Neat Receipts, but truthfully, it's not the hardware that's cool. It's the software that recognizes what it is that it's looking at and files it appropriately. It does a little what we call optical character recognition. And good software should, as somebody in the chat room saying, auto-straighten. Evernote, for instance, will auto-straighten stuff because, frankly, this is not uncommon. Scanners often, especially document feed scanners, often will get stuff a little bit askew. 8888 Ask Leo. Brian, British Columbia, you're next. In Canada, hello, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello. It's nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
I've been working with Google SketchUp, and I've been working in 3D models and that sort of stuff. And I just finished about 50 different online tutorials.
Awesome. Do you use the free SketchUp, or do you have SketchUp Pro?
Oh, I don't have $400 for SketchUp Pro.
That's great. Well, I'm glad to hear it because, of course, Google bought SketchUp at sketchup.google.com, and they offer a free version that I think is very capable. You know, the reason they started offering it, I think, was because people were doing 3D models or invited to do 3D models within Google Maps. But it is, for free, pretty capable 3D design software. Is that right?
It's absolutely incredible. There's amazing things you can do with it.
Now, where do I get your tutorials? Because I'd love to know more about how to do it.
Oh, they're not mine. I've just been using someone else's, and they're from harwoodpodcast.com.
Harwoodpodcast.com. Okay.
So, HARWOOD podcast.com.
This is, again, where podcasting is just so great because there's something you can learn. They have this is interesting. They have cooking. They have beading. They have tea. They have bread. They have farmers market. They're obviously focusing kind of on home ec stuff. What a neat idea. There's a little.
I think the story is the son asked his mom, "Do you want to do some podcasting?" And she said, "Sure."
Great.
He does the tech. She does the cooking.
That's great. So cool. How fun. And I'm glad that you're using SketchUp. What can I do to help you?
Well, they recommend a 3D connection, a 3D mouse. I'm wondering if you've been using something like that, or if you've seen something like that.
I've never heard of a 3D mouse. I'm looking at 3D connection. It can cost you quite a bit of money, can't it?
There's different levels of it. I think the lowest one is about $100, and then it goes up higher and higher than that.
So the idea is you pick this thing up and you move it around?
Yeah, you can tilt it back and forth to change your point of view. You can lift it up and down. You can twist it for turning. Sort of like a 3D joystick or something like that.
I think that's kind of neat. Most of the people I know that do 3D modeling, in fact, just use mice. But that's because that's what everybody has. So I'm not familiar with this, and I don't do 3D modeling. It's a little beyond me. But the chat room is saying they like it. A guy in the chat room named Khalif says, I've used Space Navigator with great results. TTK says, you don't pick it up, but it is really good for SketchUp. Gunnar says, it's a CAD tool. I should ask Brent. I wonder if he's here, because Brent Bai did a 3D model of our studio in SketchUp. He probably just used a mouse. Hey, Brent!
What did you in the library?
What did you use to do the 3D model of the studio? You used SketchUp, right? You used CAD for it. CAD is a floor plan. But then did you use a mouse, or did you use some sort of 3D controller like that? Have you ever used a 3D controller like that? He says it's good. He says he hasn't used it, but he says 3D Connection is a very good one. The folks next door at the Pixel Corp probably would know better than I. But yes, it sounds like everybody's recommending it. Tagman says my college uses it for CAD. Have we made that 3D model available? I think that's on my blog somewhere. Where could they find it if they wanted to see it? On my blog? And I don't know if I have the most recent version, so send me the most recent version and I'll update it on my blog. If you go to leoville.com, I'll tell you what, we'll put a link in the show notes to the entry at leoville.com so you can see that, Brian. And I would guess if the Harwood podcast says get it, and you think they're pretty good, then I would go for it. $100? Why not?
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the call. One of our chatters says it's the de facto standard. Web 3741 says de facto standard for 3D modeling. So sounds like that's the one to get. And there's a link to the Dropbox. Thank you, Kevin in Dublin. That's the most recent one. Why don't you put that link in our show notes, and people can download it. It's a 3D model in SketchUp Pro. Although I don't think you need SketchUp Pro to see it. You can download the free SketchUp of the studio that one of our studio designers, Brent Bai of oceanstudio.com, designed for us. Did a really neat job. It's really gorgeous. 8888 Ask Leo's the phone number. Roheen in Reseda, California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Roheen.
Hi there. How are you, Leo?
I'm wonderful. How you doing?
I'm wondering if you can give me a ballpark number of what would be the price for iPad 3 when it's coming out next month.
Well, we're all guessing. Remember, Apple never tells anybody anything, right? But,
yeah.
But my guess is that despite the new features of iPad 3, which we're pretty sure is a double resolution display, a Retina display, and probably LTE 4G if you're on Verizon or AT&T. Certainly, they said it's going to be thicker because it's going to have a bigger battery. And my guess, exactly the same price. One of the things Apple traditionally does is improves the quality of a product without raising the price.
That would be great because I just got an iPad 2.
Oh! Yeah. Now, if you get it from the Apple Store, usually the Apple Store will honor, for a certain amount of time, will honor it and will say, oh, yeah, you got it.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, if it comes out next month, I'm still in the 45-day window.
Good.
So I'm going to return and get the iPad 3 if it is the same price.
I bet you it will be this. Roheen, my best guess is it will be exactly the same price. That's the way Apple does it. So, in other words, $500 for the Wi-Fi only model, add $129 to get 3G, and then, of course, they'll have 16, 32, and 64 kilobit version. Some people said, or kilobyte version, gigabyte version. Some people have said maybe there'll be a 128 gigabyte version. I don't think so. I don't think that there's any reason for that. All right?
Right.
Now, remember, it's all. You're welcome, Raheen. It's all rumors. No, Apple hasn't said. But the rumor mill is strong that it will be March 7th that Apple will announce this. We're not sure how soon they'll offer it. But everybody seems to think within 10 days. So sometime around this time next month, you should be able to get the new iPad. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thanks to our musical director, Kyle Benham, who always finds great stuff to play as we come back from the breaks. You can get his playlist on his Google Plus account, KYLE space VENHAM, and we also put it on our website, techguylabs.com. Back to the phones we go, and our next caller is Glenn in Redlands, California, with the eternal question. Hi, Glenn.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, yes. I am due for an upgrade, and I'm trying to figure out if I want to get a Motorola Razr Max or an iPhone.
You're Verizon, I take it.
Yes, I'm Verizon.
So you have, the best Android phone on Verizon right now is the Droid Max because of the battery life. They don't have access to, unfortunately, my favorite, which is the Galaxy S2 or the Galaxy Note. Although we've heard that Verizon, and this is again just a rumor, will get the Galaxy Note. They'll be calling it the Galaxy Journal sometime in a month or two. I'm a big fan of the Galaxy Note, only because it's got a giant screen, 5.3-inch screen. If you've got big hands or bad eyesight, or in my case, both, it's really fantastic. I just love the big screen. The bigger, the better. But if you ask me whether you should get a Droid Max or an iPhone, I'm going to have to ask you a few questions. First, have you used either before?
Yes, I've been using the original Motorola Droid for the last year and a half.
And you love it?
Yeah, love it.
I'm a big Android fan. I think there are a lot of people who've, if you've never used a smartphone, I think iPhone is probably a better choice. There's certainly, if you're a Mac fan and you're in the Apple universe and you buy all your music on iTunes and all of that, there's probably some good reason to get an iPhone. But I frankly like the choice that's offered by Android. There are a broader variety of devices. You have roughly the same number of applications, certainly within 100,000. There's more than 250,000 on Android. That's plenty. Some people say that the that the Android apps aren't as good as the iPhone apps. I don't find that to be true. In fact, most cases, most Android apps are the same. There are only a handful of apps that are only on iPhone. Programs like Instagram, and there's Highlight. There's some social apps, but most of the stuff most people use available on both platforms. And since you've only used Androids up to now, you probably won't notice. You're not going to say, "Where's my Instagram?" So I'd say take a look at the Max. The Max has much better battery life than the iPhone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, what if I get the new iPad coming out? Would that make any difference?
Well, it might, because then when you buy apps on the iPad, many of those apps are compatible with the iPhone, so you only have to buy them once. Not all, but many. They're universal, what they call universal apps. They run on both platforms. So it might save you some money on apps. If you're a big app fan like I am, I have hundreds of apps on all my devices. I should say, by the way, I use both. I use Android and iPhone, and I like them both roughly equally. I think it's a little bit similar to the age-old Mac versus PC conundrum. There isn't a right answer, but I do believe for every individual there's a right answer, and some of that is just preference. You might want to go in and take a look at the iPhone. If you've been using an Android, I think you'll feel a little constrained by the iPhone. Here's the things that I miss when I use my iPhone. I do miss the larger screen. You'll miss the better battery life. You'll miss widgets. I don't know if you use widgets on your Droid, but I love the idea that I could put a big clock widget on the face of my phone if I like, that I can have social information on the face of my phone. The iPhone, really all you get is a grid of icons. I love these widgets. I love the ability to put a music player and have the controls right there on the screen. I like the live wallpapers. One of the things I like a lot about Android that a lot of iPhone people hate is the buttons at the bottom. I like a back button. The iPhone only has a home button, so all you can ever do in an app is back out of it to the top level, to the desktop. In many apps on the Android platform, if you go a few pages deep into the app, you can use the back button just as you would on your browser to go backwards, to go back to previous pages. And I miss that. When I go back to the iPhone, I say, I can't do where's my back button? I can't go back. So if you've gotten used to those kinds of things, I think you might find it difficult to move to the iPhone. For a long time, I missed notifications on Android, but Apple has, with iOS 5, has fixed that. They stole, this is so funny, because Apple is suing. They're suing over the lock screen, the slide to unlock screen that did admittedly appear first on the iPhone and is now on most Android phones, where the screen is locked, you slide your finger across it and unlocks it. They're suing. But if I were, didn't you exactly steal the notification system from Android for the iPhone 5? Isn't this exactly the same? What about that, Apple? What about that? The problem is there's nobody to sue Apple over that because Android's made by so many different companies. So, I happen to like Android a lot. I want to support Android because I like having choice, but I'm not dogmatic about it. I think for a lot of users, and you've often heard me on this show recommend iPhones, the iPhone's a better choice. But since you've been using Android, Glenn, I think you'd like the Droid Max a lot. You're going to love 15 hours of talk time.
I love that,
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks a million, Leo. I really appreciate your help and advice.
My pleasure, Glenn. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, what is that? William in our live audience has a slide to unlock on his Android phone that's a zipper. Now, that's nice. Where'd you get that? I don't think Apple can patent the zipper. I believe that is a original slide to unlock feature on many pieces of clothing that predates the iPhone by at least a year or two. It's pretty funny. It is an interesting double standard that Apple has. They feel free to rip off everybody. But boy, don't you dare take their intellectual property. They're going to come after you. Of course, when you have $1 billion in the bank and an entire building on the Apple campus just for the lawyers, yeah, you might as well sue. What the heck? What could it hurt? Paul in Orange, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'm sorry, $100 billion in the bank. Did I say $1 billion? What? Pardon me. I was off by a couple orders of magnitude. $100 billion in the bank. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I got my wife a new iPhone about a week ago for our anniversary.
Congratulations. And I bet she's happy.
Yes, very happy.
That's a good gift.
Years.
That's a hell of a gift. Oh, yeah, the
That's right.
24th anniversary is the smartphone anniversary. I think you're right.
I think so, too.
Yeah,
She was actually happy for that anniversary present.
Yay.
Anyway, I've got 2 Macs, and a week after I got the iPhone, my friends started getting spam mail.
You think from her?
Yes, from her email account. So I ran the ESET security software on both of my systems. Couldn't find any malware or any...
No, that seems unlikely. Was she using Yahoo Mail for her mail server?
Yes.
How interesting. I don't know why, but there must be something wrong with Yahoo's security model because this is really common. Tell her to change her password right now on her Yahoo account. And make sure... Well, I'll give you some more hints in a bit. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. What were we talking about? I have such a bad memory. Before the break, I said I'd come back and talk a little bit more about Yahoo. Thank you. So our caller said, I got my wife an iPhone for her anniversary, and 3 days later, all of her friends are getting spam. Probably a coincidence. I wouldn't blame the iPhone for that. But she is using Yahoo Mail, and I'm not sure if it's that the secret questions are not good or their password recovery system is weak. But for whatever reason, it seems Yahoo Mail is often compromised. Maybe it's the people who use Yahoo Mail don't use good passwords. Very important. Very important. Just remember, your passwords must be at least 8 characters long. Longer is better. They should combine what looks to be a random mix of letters, numbers, upper and lowercase, punctuation too. And if you want to make them even better, you could do what my friend Steve Gibson calls password haystacks. You can pad them with, and it can be something that you know, that you use all the time. I use my childhood zip code because I remember that. It was burned into my brain as a youth. And so I always, and that's what, 6 extra characters. It's the same 6 characters in all my passwords. My passwords are different, but adding those 6 characters makes them infinitely more difficult. You can put them at the beginning, you can put them in the middle, you can put them at the end, but it makes it infinitely more difficult. So make sure you have a good password. And then look at the password recovery system. Because, Yahoo, Gmail, all these companies understand that their people are going to forget their passwords. They have to give you a way of getting that password back. And you want to look at that. If it's a secret word, what was your mother's maiden name? Often they do too. Banks will do this too. Do not use your mother's maiden name. That's something somebody can find out about you. Lie. When they ask me, what was the high school mascot, I say the Wolverines. It wasn't really, but I remember that, and it's not something somebody could figure out. So lie in those secret questions. Don't use your actual birth date or your actual mother's maiden name because that's guessable. Your favorite city. They ask, what's your favorite city? Now, it doesn't take long for people to try Paris, London, New York, and San Francisco. And I guarantee you, most of you, it's one of those 4. Make your favorite city be Moline, Illinois. Nobody will guess it. Nothing wrong with Moline. It's just not likely to be guessed or something else. Can't use Moline now. So look carefully, not just at how strong your own password is, but at the password recovery system. And, make sure you make it difficult. The more difficult, the less likely you'll be hacked. Now, once somebody gets your email, there's some common attacks that they use. The most common, the one that really tells you they got into your system, is they'll read the email and then create a special email to your correspondence that looks like you wrote it. They'll have your name in it, details that only you would know, and they'll ask for money. That's a particularly evil kind of, we call it a spear phishing attack because it's targeted. That's a particularly evil kind of attack. If that's what's happening to you, change your password. Tell everybody in your contact list, please ignore that email that came from me earlier. That wasn't me. Now, if you look and you see, your friends tell you, hey, I'm getting a lot of email and your address is a return address, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming from your account. Any email address can be spoofed. Email was not designed to be secure because when email was designed many moons ago, there wasn't any security issue. So it's very easy with any email package to do a fake email address. I can make all my email come from president@whitehouse.gov. It's easy. You just change it in your email package. So if it's only that you're getting bounced back email or that then I wouldn't worry about it. But if everybody in your contact list got an email that purports to be from you, yeah, they compromised your account. Change that password. Make sure it's a good, strong password. There are lots of techniques for making good, strong passwords. I mentioned the password haystack, the padding. That's one part of it. But the other part of it is, how do you make a password with random characters, numbers, punctuation? Well, the way I do it is I think of a sentence that I can remember, a line in a song, first lines in a poem. 'Twas the night before Christmas and all through the house. Let's use that. And then I take the first letter of each word, TWTNBC. Now, there's a comma here in the line, right? So put that comma in. That's okay. AATTH. Now, that's a pretty good password. We've got a comma. Now, you want to mix upper and lower case. So sometimes I make all the verbs uppercase or all the nouns uppercase. Think of a rule that you'll remember. You can make a pretty good random-looking password by numbers, letters, and punctuation. But you make it something that you can reconstruct by just saying a poem in your head. That works pretty well. And then add something else. Your locker combination from high school. That's a good one. We all have that burned in our brain, don't we? Put the locker combination from high school, 6 characters, 6 numbers afterwards. Man, that's a good password. Very important. Use good passwords. Look at the password recovery. Make sure those secret questions have nonsense answers. Really a good idea, I think, and Google does this, to have a password recovery system that goes through your cell phone. So if you forget your password or lose your password, you can set it up on Google. Everybody should be doing this, that it texts you on your cell phone. Because a bad guy would not only then have to be able to get your password, he'd have to have your cell phone. And that's good, right? Of course, if he's got your cell phone, you have other problems. So that's my suggestion. I don't think it had to do with the new cell phone. At least I hope not. Paul, are you still there?
Hello?
Oh, hi. Is this Paul's wife? Who is this? Oh, no, this is Donna. Hi, Donna, Orange County, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Hi, Donna.
Hi. I had a question regarding backup.
Good. My favorite topic.
On my computer right now, I do have Carbonite, and then I back up to a portable hard drive.
Perfect.
But the problem I have right now is my hard drive is full, so I'm going to have to take some of my pictures, which I have way too many of.
No. Get another hard drive. Why would you? Don't throw out any of those pictures. Get another hard drive.
But it's a laptop, and I only have 1 terabyte, and the terabyte's full.
Oh, you mean your laptop drive? Not the backup drive. The laptop drive is full.
The laptop drive.
Got it. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Yeah. Terabyte's big for a laptop. You got a lot of... If you filled up a terabyte, you take a lot of pictures, Donna.
Yes, I take a lot of pictures.
So here's my suggestion. Remember, when you delete originals, that's deleting 1 of the 3 copies of everything you should have. So you want to make another copy of that before you delete those.
Okay.
But I interrupted you. So what's your question?
Well, I like Carbonite because I like the idea of the offsite storage. But I know it backs up my computer, so if I take the pictures off my computer,
Yes.
they're no longer by Carbonite.
They'll leave them on Carbonite for a month, and then they'll delete them.
And then they'll delete it. So is there some kind of cloud storage that you could send documents to that are no longer on your computer?
Yeah. With pictures, it's easy. I use there's a lot of photo sites, and I use those as my backup. SmugMug is not free, but is fantastic, and they'll store originals. Flickr is free. They'll store quite a few. I would use that as a way to store your photos. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Last segment of the day. And as always, when it's down to the bitter dregs, It's time for Dick DeBartolo, our gadget guy, Mad Magazine's maddest writer, and the host of the fabulous weekly daily Gizwiz program right here on this very same...
here with the Drudge Report of gadgets.
How are you,
you're
Dickie
out
D?
there touting your $30,000 iPod dock.
Yes.
What was the iNuke?
iNuke from Behringer. It's the funniest thing. It was 900 pounds, 8 feet by 4 feet. If you go behind, and it has this little dock. You put the iPod on there. I showed it on Live with Kelly. And you go in the back. There's two switches. They're covered like they are, like it's the nuclear switches with plastic switch guards. You don't accidentally press the button. One of them is the on-off switch, but the other one, the bright red plastic cover, is the iNuke button. And when you flip it, you probably could deafen people. You certainly, if anybody's standing in front of it, they'll be thrown 30 or 40 feet. That thing was wild.
Now
You got something comparable? By the way, that was only $30,000. So that's a pretty good deal.
All right, so I'm coming in with something under $100. Okay, it's from Haier, and it's their 20-inch sound bar. So it's just two full-range speakers, 20 watts, as opposed to your 20,000 watts. But it's a great little sound bar for if you have a TV in the kitchen, a TV in the bedroom, you want to add some decent sound to it. It's wall-mountable, comes with remote control. Comes with RCA cables, comes with video component cables, the remote control, and list price is $99.99.
That's a good deal. It has a dock for an iPhone or an iPod?
Absolutely, and the iPad also. Can dock all three, charges them, built-in FM radio, so it's really a fair amount of equipment for a little price. And at a CES, actually on the Weekly Daily Gizwiz last week, I played it for you, and through the
it sounded really good on
mic.
Skype.
Yes, exactly.
Now, when you say soundbar, sometimes I think it's going to do surround sound, because some soundbars are actually...
No.
This is just two channels, left and right.
It's just two channels.
Yeah.
But, it's basically if you have a little TV in the kitchen where it has two mini speakers and 1 watt of output, this can really improve it for about $80. It's called the Haier 20-inch sound bar. And Haier is HAIER.
HaireAmerican.com. But I think they Amazon and everybody have it.
They do.
Yeah.
They do indeed.
HAIER. Now, if you go to another site, a site that will live in infamy, it's Giz.
Oh, you've always had it for me.
I have it in for me. Gizwiz.biz. That's Dick's site, GIZWIZ.biz. Somebody said I'm saying that too fast. I don't know how I could say it slower. GIZWIZ.biz. Now, that's Dick's site, and there's lots of good stuff there, including a link to the Haier soundbar and other products that he mentions on our fabulous weekly daily Gizwiz. But the most important thing, you've got to go to the What the Heck Is It contest. Click that button, and you're going to see what looks like 10 pins with duck feet on the top. It's duck pin bowling. What the heck is that? If you get it right, you have a chance to win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine. If you get it wrong, you have a chance to win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine. So I'm not sure really what the contest part is, but anyway. Right or wrong, you have a chance to win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine.
Yeah, and if you pan down, you'll see what you will win, because now the cover has been released.
Oh, it's always a surprise. We never know. Oh, my goodness. Mike and Molly, television's biggest stars. All-you-can-eat buffet. It's American Gothic writ large.
Well, yes, with a fork instead of a pitchfork.
All right. I love Mad Magazine. I have to say, I grew up with Mad Magazine, and I grew up reading this guy here, so it's always a pleasure to talk to Dick DeBartolo, one of the baddest writers and one of the greats, and, of course, our Gizwiz. Thank you for joining us, Dick. Hang in there, because we're going to do the weekly Daily Gizwiz show right after this show.
I'll be here.
So this is how I get the Premier Radio Network to pay the long-distance phone charge. We just get Dick on the show, and then we keep him. As yet, they have not asked me, how is it that Dick's 5-minute segment takes 3 hours to record? Well, Many takes. Lori in Thousand Oaks. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Lori.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
Okay, I was looking into purchasing the new Nook tablet. What I actually want is one thing that does everything. So I want a telephone, I want the internet, and I want a tablet. I want to read books, and I want to see movies.
Yeah, see, unfortunately, the Nook tablet is not a telephone.
I don't think there is one that does all of that.
No. I think the Kindle Fire would be a better choice because of the movies, because, it is a good multimedia device. It's got Amazon. The price is right, too. It's $50 less.
What's it called?
It's called the Kindle Fire. See, it's very similar to the Color Nook that Barnes & Noble just came out with. Really, the only difference is that it's Amazon-backed, not Barnes & Noble-backed, but I think Amazon's going to be around. I can't vouch for Barnes & Noble, to be honest with you. And I also think that the Nook there's a good future on the Nook, that Amazon really has committed to this platform, and a lot of things will be happening for this. You have Netflix on it, which is great. I think they just put HBO Go on it, lots of games, lots of apps, and it's a fairly good reader. It is not as good as the e-ink readers. You've probably seen the Kindles and the Nooks that have kind of, solid black lettering on a slightly gray screen. Those e-ink readers are the easiest to read, but you need bright light for them. You have to. It's like a book. You got to shine a light on it. The new tablets are like tablets. They're backlit. For my money, the Fire is the best, but you don't get a phone. Now, there is one option that I think you might want to look at. It's what I use as a phone now. It's the Samsung Galaxy Note. Now, it's AT&T. It comes out Sunday. It comes out tomorrow. And it's called the Galaxy Note. And it is a phone. It's an Android phone, N-O-T-E, just like Notepad. It's an Android phone, but it's 5.3 inches. So while it's not as big as the Kindle Fire or the Barnes & Noble tablet, it's big. For a phone, it's really big. I would go to an AT&T store and look at it. Sometimes people with smaller hands don't like it because it is, it's big. But it is a phone. You said you wanted a compromised device. This is the biggest phone I know of.
Okay. Do you have to pay? One thing I liked about the...
you got to pay because it's a smartphone, so you're paying for data. Yeah.
Right, and I'm way too cheap, so I don't want to pay. I just want Wi-Fi.
Well, any phone, anything that has a phone you're gonna have to pay for, unfortunately. Now,
I don't mind paying for the phone. I just don't want to pay for the internet.
I understand. So you're going to have to get a phone that's just a dumb phone and a tablet, and I would recommend the Fire if you're going to choose one of the readers. You might want to wait. In 3 weeks, Apple announces the iPad 3, and that might be such a killer device. It might be worth paying 3 times as much for it.
I think I'm too cheap.
You're a cheapskate. Get the Kindle Fire. It's the cheapest one, but it's also the best one. And by the way, I think you can put Skype in it, so you'd at least be able to make if you're near a Wi-Fi signal, you'd at least be able to make internet phone calls.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why you don't like the Nook is...
I just don't. It's comparable to the Fire. It's more expensive, and I think Amazon's going to be around a lot longer than Barnes & Noble. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.